Today's World Traveler is bringing us to Prague. It's the capital of the Czech Republic, and it's one of the most beautiful cities on the planet. We're going to show you all of the great highlights of Prague in today's one-hour program, starting out with a little dance performance of ethnic folk music. We're sending you a quick flurry of scenes that summarize the program. As always with World Traveler, we'll take you in depth into the city, showing you not only the obvious tourist highlights like Prague Castle, but some out-of-the-way back alleys, major cathedrals and churches, beautiful interiors, lots of great architecture, art history, restaurants, fine dining, shopping, and general sightseeing. You're going to find that Prague is one of the best preserved historic cities in all of Europe. And there are several reasons for that historic preservation. Prague has always been a major capital, a major cultural center from the Middle Ages right up through the 1800s and into modern day. So there was always a lot going on in Prague. Beautiful buildings were constructed, great cuisine was developed, town squares fell into place, beautiful streets, wonderful buildings. And then something unusual happened in the 20th century. Prague was taken over by the communists, and not much development took place. There weren't very many modern buildings constructed, and therefore the history was preserved almost by default. Ever since 1989, the communists have been out, democracy is in, and Prague has become a modern nation that's now welcoming tourists to its doors. So let's get on a train and go. First, we've got to get there. In today's program, we're continuing a tour of Central Europe by train with the Hawaii Geographic Society. And we happen to be traveling from Budapest. We just left the Budapest Keleti station, traveling through some very scenic countryside, enjoying the route as we go, talking with our fellow travelers, having some meals on board the train. It's about a 6-hour train ride, and it takes you from Budapest, enjoying some meals here along the way, Budapest through Slovakia, on our way to the Czech Republic. And we are traveling in style on board first class Eurail, and the dining cars are out of this world. The meals are just like you would get in a good restaurant, and the service is good. So this all adds up to a very pleasant way to spend the time while you're traveling. This is real food, a real kitchen, and real scenery going by. A feast for the eyes. We'll see castles on top of hillsides and the beautiful rivers and rolling farmlands as we tool along through the countryside on our way to Prague. This is part of our tour of Central Europe by train. We started out in Germany. We visit Munich and Heidelberg, and then into Austria, where we stay in Salzburg for a few days, and then on to Vienna, and then Budapest, and finally Prague, completing our tour. The yellow sunflower fields always add a beautiful patch of color to our scenery. And we soon enough arrive in Prague at the train station. We're picked up by our transfer bus that'll take us on into our hotel. We're staying at the Deluxe Palace Hotel, which is just on the edge of the old town. So one of the first things we want to do is go out and have a look around. So we're going to go now, so if everybody would get up on your feet, and it's going to be, like I said, just a brief walk, about 30 minutes, just to get you oriented. And I know you're all eager to change some money as well, so that should give you time to get to a bank. Right. Well, first of all, let's get out and see the main street and get you going on your orientation, okay? Right now we're in the main square of the new town. This is Wenceslas Square. It looks like a long street, long wide street, but it's a square, and it goes all the way up to the top where you see that's the museum. That's a museum of natural history. But there's shops all the way up and down both sides of Wenceslas Square. And in this direction we have the old town. So back this way, just that's where we're heading next. About 4 blocks, 5 blocks from here is the old streets, the cobble lanes, and then the old town square. And then you go beyond that and to the left, which is where we'll end up at the Charles Bridge. So that's the general orientation for you right away. Well, as you can see, the action is pretty thick and heavy right along the square, and now we're getting into a neighborhood where they've got these sidewalk kiosks. These little shopping stalls are out here all day. And by the way, the shops are open all day tomorrow, all day till it's about 6 p.m. And the souvenir shops will be open later than that, of course. And on Sunday, many of the shops in town are open, even in the normal shopping streets for, say, clothes or whatever, antiques and this and that. So you're going to have plenty of opportunity for getting rid of all the rest of your money that you brought with you on the tour. Now we're going to continue walking straight, and it'll become more of a pedestrian type of zone. And in a few blocks, that will lead us right into the old town square. So now we have really arrived at the beginning of the old town atmosphere. So for about 5 blocks in this direction, it's really charming old streets. And it goes for about, let's say, 5 blocks that way, 5 blocks that way. You've got 25 square blocks of old town in that direction, and to your right, 25 more. So this is it. This is really the beginning of where this network of pedestrian streets begins, the old houses. And look up here behind you at this church facade. It's one of the really pretty churches here. It's done in the Italian style by an Italian architect who was very much influenced by Borromini from Rome. You can see in the curvatures of the facade, the concave, the convex, the beautiful flowing lines. So this is the Italian Baroque, and you'll find that this whole city is a Baroque city. Now some of it's even earlier. Some of it has the medieval basements, medieval foundations. In fact, let's just wrap it up here and say that the city really got started about 1240 AD as an urban center. Very old, medieval, Middle Ages and Gothic. So we'll continue straight on into the old town square. So you could shoot a roll of film standing in, I could shoot a roll of film standing on one corner. That's what I do, is shoot details of buildings. And they're also nicely preserved. And what you see ahead of you there is the tip of the tower of the old town hall. There's also the clock. Now the glockenspiel is at a lower level on that same tower. And at 5 o'clock it'll be going off every hour. It goes off. We'll point that out to you. We're going to head straight for the tower. Over in this direction behind me you see the astronomical clock, and that's that glockenspiel that goes off on the hour. It tells the time, it tells the astrological season, it'll chart your horoscope, it'll entertain you and delight you. And there's a series of 12 apostles who march through those Gothic windows, and the bells clang and go off, and it's really quite a nice show. But this is the town square, the old town square. And it's lined with old palaces, again, mostly Gothic, Gothic foundations with Baroque facades. And some of these restaurants have downstairs rooms in the vaulted, cavernous medieval basements. That's very characteristic. For dinner tonight, I would suggest that you just simply walk around and find someplace outdoors that looks good. However, on the main square, it's a little bit more touristic, naturally, and a little bit more pricey, and the service we found wasn't so hot right here in the main square. So maybe not the best place for a meal. For a beer or coffee, sure. But for meals, there's all these little side streets. And either indoors or on a night like this, outdoors would be really splendid, really quite nice. So now you see the whole square, and really it does almost look like a Disneyland fantasy, but this is the real thing. This is what the Disney fantasies are based upon. Baroque palaces all around us, and over to your left is the St. Nicholas Church. It's done in the Baroque style. Once again, the interior is beautifully decorated. You can go on in there later on your own. That really towering, almost glowering series of those two towers, it looks like a Gothic missile launcher ready to go. That's the Teen Church, T-Y-N. It's Gothic, and you can go inside there. It's open during the daytime. It was built in 1350s. The church seems to be right on the town square, but it's not. You see, there's some older buildings in front of the church. You have to walk through that tunnel, and finally you get into the Church of Our Lady of Teen, commonly referred to as the Teen Church. Built in the Middle Ages, it's been rebuilt and renovated and redecorated ever since. It's free and it's filled with beautiful art treasures, so go have a look. There's some very nice streets just behind this tin church. Little squares and more of the cobble lanes. So you could just walk along. In fact, one of the main medieval shopping streets that is a very popular pedestrian promenade now is just to the right. Right there, just continuation of the square to the right. And that goes for about 6 blocks, really delightful, really pleasant. And some little side streets off from there as well too. Focus your time on where we've come from and where we're about to go, to the Charles Bridge, which is another one of the real cherries on top of this Sunday here, the Charles Bridge. And that's where we're going now. It's just about 6 little blocks, and we just kind of follow the crowd through the narrow winding alleyway. This is the busiest and most crowded street in Prague, connecting the Old Town Square with Charles Bridge. So just around the bend is the bridge. So from here we have this very nice view of the bridge. It's called the Charles Bridge. The street that we were just walking on at the end there is called Charles Street. And this goes across to what's called the Mala Strana, which means the little quarter, the lesser town. It's more of the old town. And up on the hill there you see the castle and the great cathedral. That's where we're going tomorrow morning. The bus is going to take us, we don't have to walk from here up to the top of the hill. The bus will take us up there, and we'll walk around up there for a few hours and go and explore the castle. And then the bus will take us back down into the Mala Strana, and that's where we'll have lunch in the afternoon. Now, if anybody's interested in having a nice dinner outdoors on the riverbank, there's a spot just on the other side of this bridge. It's a nice outdoor spot, terrace on the water. And it's a very nice restaurant, maybe for dinner this evening if you want. That would be my #1 recommendation. Otherwise, it's just catch what you can in there in the old town. And here too we have another tower. This was part of the fortifications that protected the city, still standing. And you can walk up a staircase inside the tower, and from there you have really a lovely view of the old town. Yeah, so let's just walk up on the bridge and we'll go past 1 or 2 statues and enjoy the view from there. The Charles Bridge is always entertaining. This is the Vltava. We're no longer at the Danube. And again, over here you see the Castle District up on the hill with the cathedral. It's the largest castle in the world. It's basically a town with a wall around it. So it qualifies as the biggest castle any place, and very well preserved. Most of the buildings are utilized today for one thing or another. The president of the country has his offices in the castle, so it's still the place where the leader resides. That's where it was from the beginning, of course. They used to be separate towns. They were about 4 separate towns here, and over the centuries they grew together as one unified place. And again, that's the Mala Strana. Another 10 blocks at least up, 10 blocks over. A lot more interesting alleys to walk in. And there's a big, beautiful cathedral there. You can see the dome of it, St. Nicholas. And it's built in the Baroque style. The interior is really spectacular. Tomorrow we could go in there after lunch, depending on how you all feel. If you want to just eat lunch and then head back into town for shopping, we can do that too. And there's some boat rides that you can take up and down this river. The boat ride is pleasant enough, but it's not a must-do experience like the boat ride in Paris, for example. But if you have some free time, ride the boat. So that's the end of the walk. Now what I suggest is that you folks just kind of trickle back on your own, or if you'd like to walk back to the hotel, I'd be happy to walk you there. We could take a different routing, take some other little back streets. But on your own, it's really easy. You just head through the arches and keep on going to the town square. Get to the town square and you take a right, and that'll get you home. Okay?